Hi everyone, welcome back to Scrapping Scotland. Welcome to the Xbox 360 teardown. As you can see, Xbox is in fairly good condition, but I've tore quite a lot of these down in the past and they're usually quite good in terms of the boards. So I'm going to tear this one down today for you guys, so hopefully you enjoy that. If we look around the Xbox 360, there doesn't appear to be a lot of screws, so the best method for me is to start with a hammer. We'll get that side off. So you can spend time messing around, or you can just get into it and smash the plastic off. I preferred this time to just smash the plastic off. Alrighty, so now we've got the sealed metal unit and we need to start taking out some screws. So, take off our first plate. This is steel, so it just goes into a shred. First look inside it, so we have this kind of power pack area here. We have the fan, and then we have our disk drive here as well. So we'll get this stuff out, and then we can have a little bit of a closer look what's underneath. Okay, first thing out is the disk drive, nice and easy. Just take the plastic off that and I'll stick this in my disk drive's box because I've got loads of them to do. Okay, there's our long screws, goes right through to the other side, keeps on the plastic, not in this case. Little retaining screw there. So this looks like our little hard drive in here. Okay, not easy to get out right away. Take it with the plastic. Okay, it's got a little retaining screw in the bottom again. So this is definitely a hard drive. Not a great deal, but we'll need to get these screws out the back first before we can release the fan and the heatsink. So a little front card, some gold plating here as you can see, nice big gold flashing on that. Okay. So now we need to try and get the board out, and it is a little bit tight. What I'm going to do, try and make it a little bit easier, is just to remove these sides, or at least pull them back. There's a steel shred, and there's our board. Okay. Still not jumping off in terms of the heatsink. Possibly just need the right tool. Yeah, as I thought, just needed the right tool. That releases our heatsink, as you can see. Now this heatsink, although very dusty, let's give it a little dust off. As you can see, there's a nice copper nugget right in the middle of that. Okay, and we are going to get that out. Okay, so first of all we need to release these screws that are keeping on the fan. There's some screws on the fan itself, so let's try and see if we can do that. Okay, one down. Okay, so that's the screws released at the back. That hasn't obviously released the fan. Okay, there's a little fan. We'll process that later. We'll knock that centre piece out and we'll process that with our motors. And as you can see, here's our little copper nugget. It's inset a little bit and then flush on this side. Okay, so to get that out, we can just put that on top of the vise and hopefully we can just bash that right through. Okay, and there's our little nub of copper. Okay, nice and heavy. Here's our aluminium. And here's the board that we're left with. Okay, so obviously just remove the wires. So on our board, as you can see, there's a couple of chips. One chip here, one chip here, some small flat pack chips here. We've got our little copper toroids that are only really half populated with copper, so there's not a lot of copper on them. Something seems to have happened to the chip because there's no chip here anymore, which is interesting. So that may be lying about. So, oh, here it is. There we go. Look, that chips came off. Okay, so it has got a copper piece on the top of it, but it's not gold on the bottom. Let's have a look. It's a Canadian chip for all you Canadians out there. Okay, let's see if I can give you a bit of a close-up to it, see if you can read it. You may have to take a still of that or pause it to read it properly. E-Waste Mike, you're the best guy for chips that I know, so I don't know if you can tell me what kind of chip that is or what it's worth. Okay, so there's our chip. Come back to the board. As you can see on this little piece here, those little nice gold pins that are on that, they are quite nice. As everyday solers would say, they are yummy. And then we've got a couple of little copper reels. A little copper reel here, tiny little one. Come around this side. We've got a little copper reel here. Again, tiny little one. So a little one hiding in behind as well. And then we've got another one over here. And another one over here. Okay, so not a great deal of value on this board. The pins themselves in here, they are all gold plated pins. Don't know if you can see that very good in the light within the shed, but they are all gold plated pins. Okay, so there's definitely some value there. And then on the underside, you got some small MLCCs, but again, not a great deal on that. Okay, no chips on the back, just really, as I say, some really small MLCCs such as these ones here. And then the last thing on this board is the pins here. So as you can see, there's nice gold pins as well. Okay, unlikely there'll be gold on the other side. I think it'll just be gold one-sided, and sitting behind it is another set of those pins as well, as you can see. Okay, and that's really about it for the main board. We did get a couple of other little tiny boards off it. So here's one here. Okay, again, nothing really on that apart from the USB connector. And again, there is gold pins inside here as well. The only other board we had was this one. Okay, again, this kind of plastic piece on the front. This is your, I think it's your main kind of button. On your Xbox, you get a little button like that, your little power button. Now that probably sits in here. Okay, and that's it. That's that there. Apart from that, like I say, this is gold plated, and you do have a little crystal oscillator in here. Okay, on the back there is some gold plating on the tips of these pins. Not a great deal. Okay, but you can still put that into your gold recovery. And then you've got a couple of tiny little IC chips. Okay, so again, not a great deal, but you know, it all adds up, as we say. Alrighty, so key things we want to weigh is the aluminium heatsink, and of course our copper nub. Okay, that's a nice looking little nub of copper there. Okay, gave it a little bit of a bash on top, as you can see. It's not great, but that's fine. That does not devalue the copper. Okay, so let's get the scales out and have a look. Just before we get the scales out and have a look at that, so we've got the Xbox 360 hard drive here. As you can see, it's a 250 gigabyte hard drive, and we want to get that out of the plastic. So I don't want to be too overzealous here, but we'll get it out with a little bit of a tap with a hammer. Now if I am slightly overzealous and dent it, that's alright, because I will be taking it apart anyway. And it is just going to be a hard drive inside this plastic. Just like any other kind of hard drive that you see, it's not a static hard drive. But unusual for me to see these in a sealed unit. The one thing it has done, if you can listen, it's obviously shattered that disc inside, but that's alright. I have no real issue with that. Obviously with some of these discs inside, they are aluminium, some of them are glass, and this one obviously appears to be glass. The little bits of wire came off as well. We've obviously got some gold connecting pins on there as well, so a little bit more gold value. Okay, so we'll start off with grams for our piece of copper. And that little piece of copper weighs 57.4 grams. And that is exactly 2 ounces. So there we go, 2 ounces of copper for that little bit. We've got an aluminium heatsink. And that weighs 162.7 grams. And that amounts to 5.7 ounces of aluminium. Our little chip. Our little chip weighs 14.8 grams. And that is half an ounce. The board weighs 320.7 grams. And that is 11.3 ounces. Hard drive will take apart for the aluminium, and hopefully that's a little bit of stainless on there as well. May not be, maybe aluminium as well. Definitely not steel, it's not magnetic. And then we have our other pieces of shred. So I'm not going to weigh the shred, I hardly ever weigh the shred. I'm not going to weigh the shred today. We stick it in the shred pile. And then our final bit of value, really, obviously we're not weighing the very, very small boards. Our final bit is our disk drive. And these disk drives as well, they do have gold pins and things inside them as well. I'm not going to tear the whole thing apart today, as I will do a bit of a video on these bigger disk drives and tearing these apart, because there is some good value inside these as well, and sometimes little boards as well. As I say, because they do have gold pins and they are attached to little boards. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed that one. I was a little bit impatient, to be fair, and took the plastic off with a hammer. Could have been a little bit more patient and took the screws out, but the screws were actually quite difficult to locate, so to prevent the messing around a little bit, we just smashed it off with a hammer. I'm always pleased when I get a heatsink that has a copper donut in the middle. Yeah, so we got a copper donut, and there's our little copper donut. As I say, a couple of ounces just in that little copper donut, so good value. Alright, thank you again for watching guys. Always appreciate you guys coming along and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button, it really does help the channel. If you didn't like the video that much but you're skipped to the end, then still hit that thumbs up button guys. Help me out on the channel, it would be much appreciated. And if you did enjoy it, then hopefully we'll see you again next time on Scrapping Scotland. Goodbye for now.